Welcome back. A significant conflict may be brewing between Montgomery County Public School System and Muslim parents over the planned MCPS rescinding of an opt-out policy, which would have allowed parents to opt out of a required LGBTQ reading requirement for elementary schools. Mark, MCPS policy stated that students and families may not choose to opt out of engaging with any instructional materials other than family life and human sexuality units of instruction. What is more human sexuality than transgenderism and LGBTQ issues? Why is the MCPS taking this stance?
Well, this, I think, is a reminder of the sort of dueling definitions or conflicting definitions of diversity. So there's the diversity that focuses on identity, and then there's the diversity that is inclusive of the notion of people who have different ideas and have different diversity of thought. And the fact the Muslim community raises this issue kind of also underscores the fact that people of faith may not always agree with what MCPS is, communicating, and when and where and how should those parents have the opportunity to be able to opt out. And the fact, it's interesting, as Muslims, it could have just as easily have been sort of more fundamentalist Christians, but they frankly don't have much standing with MCPS. So we'll see what happens with this.
Well, certainly, Nancy, that the involvement of the Council of American Islamic Relations, CARE, and their opposition to this has brought the subject to the national media even. So, I mean, again, it seems odd. Montgomery County changed their policy last December on this issue, and really, I don't quite understand why they did.
Well, I have to say, I think Mark captured the issue. Diversity is not sex education or sexuality per se as defined in the state regulations, and that's what they say they're adhering to. So, I mean, maybe it's a tough pill for certain communities of interest to accept, but the fact is, people of different gender identities are part of our population, and that's part of their educational process in terms of exposing kids to this reality. But it's not sex ed, which is something you can opt out of, which from my perspective, I think is terrible.
So, well, actually, some of the books
talk about that.
Some of the required reading books does go into graphic images of sexuality, and I think this it's not a question of whether or not we recognize that there are children of a diverse nature, that there may be gay children, transgender children. That's really not, that acceptance can be taught in a way that doesn't deal with sexuality. And I think that's where the parents are coming from. That's where I would certainly be opposed to it. If you're having books that show graphic images, I wouldn't want that shown to my 3-year-old, my 5-year-old, my 10-year-old in any regard in a public school setting. So that's where the question is, are the books that are being chosen by MCPS appropriate, and do parents have a right to opt out if they're not?
And I haven't read them. Have you?
I've seen them.
Yeah, really. Has any of us looked at these volumes?
But the issue, though, is
the answer is no. So let's order them, and then we can talk about it.
Mark, go ahead and finish this.
I was going to say, but there is an issue here of the relative position of the school system and parents, and who should be sort of paramount in the decision-making process. And it's interesting to go in and discuss what's in the curriculum, but that's the fundamental question: is should parents have a veto over some of the content of what is taught at MCPS. And the school system's position is a very clear no, unless we are absolutely forced by law to do so.
Well, it's an interesting topic. We've been talking about this for 2 years since this arose in the Virginia elections 2 years ago, whether or not there should be a parental bill of rights in Maryland, and that's one thing we haven't gotten to yet.